Um, yeah, I also work in Des Moines, and I'm also glad that after I got my master's degree, instead of going to Philadelphia, to where you were, I actually got to stay in Iowa. First, I want to thank John this morning for reminding us of the great changes and challenges we have ahead in our education system. I'm very happy to learn that we are moving forward, bringing in a culture that is going to be producing culture instead of receiving culture. We have Chris, who is telling us all the workforce problems we got coming our way, especially when he's telling us that, well, let me see this. Okay. When he tells us that the jobs are going to be generated in the future are going to have to be filled by immigrants. We got Sue, who basically is telling us that we can create spaces of dialogue and understanding with species that are 98% humans. And then we get the other gurus like them to tell us, is this fine? I think that's probably not working. Well, it's supposed to say creating a third space, and that's what we're going to create right now. You know, Mike, you're an entrepreneur, so my question for you would be, would you hire this beautiful woman? Would you hire her when it's obviously beautiful what we see, but we know that she probably it's having some sort of negative externality going through her, and I probably can convince many of you right now that she's not very happy. On the other hand, I can probably convince Mike that you probably should hire her. She seems happy, and I can persuade you that she's a happy woman. So this is what I think is very amazing. We spend as a society so much time, so many resources trying to find happy people to work for us. And we're focused on filtering as much as we can the people that are not going to be suitable for the culture of our company, of our institution. Just a parenthesis, I define institutions, and this is one of the many definitions in the many dictionaries. It's human coordinated ecosystems. So when I talk about the word institution, just think about the boy and the mice. So yeah, we go through in our companies looking for people like him to work for us. People that come to work, they're happy, they're there because they want to be there. But what happens is that we have very homogeneous cultures in our companies. We get established and we say this is what we believe, this is our values, and we are unwilling to change our values or to reconsider what are the good things happening and what are the bad things happening. And we're focusing on filtering the people that do not look like us, do not think like us, instead of trying to figure out if we have a system in place, an institution that can actually take any knowledge, any information, all the values that are out there, and actually contribute to the creation and recreation of more culture and new culture. We also heard today a conservative from the UK talking about change. So if you can talk about change, well, this is basically what I'm going to talk about. Let's change the way we construct our institutions. Let's change this perception of if you do not look or think like me, these things are not going to work out. What I'm trying to persuade you of the things that are happening right here in Iowa is that we can take people from all different values, all different religions, bring them to Iowa and be productive. This is how it all started for me. When I got my degree in economics, I got called by the Center of Transportation at Iowa State University, and they said, we have a problem. We have an incoming immigrant population from Latin America, mostly from Mexico, and they're dying on the job site. If all the Latinos in the construction industry would leave at once, the United States, actually the rate of fatalities in the construction industry would decrease in the whole country by 10%. But is that, unfortunately you cannot see the whole thing, but that's fine. Unfortunately, the growth of fatalities in the construction industry over a period of 10 years is due to Latino immigration. And explanations of why that is, well, there are so many, and there is so much information out there. But when I came in, we said, well, let's fix this problem. Let's culturally assimilate the problem. We are going to teach them the American way, whatever that means. So we went out there, provided the training, set up the school system ready for safety, language, training. What was the problem? Because we are trying to assimilate them to a culture that I don't belong to, or they don't belong to. They actually don't get to use their knowledge. They are afraid of using their new knowledge, and when we test them after 3 months of training, they remember about 5% of everything we teach. So I said, well, that's fine. Statistics show, our statistics show at Iowa State, that a little over 50% of the immigrants coming to work in the construction industry from Latin America have not finished high school. Fine, so I said, well, so my statistics shows that 90% of the US-born workers in the construction industry, and especially supervisors, have finished high school. So I'm gonna ask them to adapt. I'm gonna teach them how to manage a person like me coming from Latin America, and let's see if that's possible. Well, it didn't work. First, there were riots that I was teaching them Spanish for construction. That was fun, by the way. I like some friction once in a while. But what really happened is that they also learn about 5% of everything we wanted them to know in the different training that we provided. So the picture over there that you don't see, there's different workers, different races working together. And then I said, well, how about let's stop the adaptation or the assimilation deal for a moment, and let's actually figure out if we can actually create culture, if actually we can produce new cultures, new values, a new way to think about life. And let's stop assuming that the production relationship between a Latino and an American construction worker is just a matter of saying, hey, Tom, hey, Jose, could you hang me the hammer? But it's more in terms of, hey, Tom, hey, Jose, we recognize our common humanity. So we said, well, how do we create culture? And I didn't know this. Economists cannot quantify culture, so I actually had to study for the first time when I actually had already my degree. So I started studying different guys, Freire, in education, and he has this concept of praxis, and many different philosophers and cultural intellectuals have different ways to call it, but it's basically the process of a strong reflection about your self-identity and the action of and then together with action of reconstruction of those identities. These are pictures taken by me, by the way. This is what's happening in Iowa right now, in our industry, construction industry. The guy in the middle is me, and that reminds me of John. His last name, Carver, the superintendent that talked to us about the computers, says that the instructors are afraid in the schools that now the kids are teaching them social media and all that stuff. They're losing control, and I love that. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm the guy in the middle saying, okay guys, I'm not a carpenter, I don't know anything about concrete, I just know that I'm here to create a space for you to teach each other everything you know. And that's all I wanted. And of course, you don't know that you can teach each other everything you know, but I'm telling you, I did the best I could to bring the scaffolding material for you to be able to communicate in a new way, in a new language. Call it Tex, Mex, Iowan, English, I don't know. But you're going to communicate because that's how I'm going to make sure I show that we can produce a new culture. And it's a culture that comes out of that shop, the back of that truck. So we engage them in a process of dialogue, and that creates a hybrid new culture, and that takes us to another space, which we call third space. Learning. After 3 months, the learning, it's 40% of everything we wanted them to learn. And my organization, the Master Builders of Iowa, received the National Award for Diversity in Construction Industry in San Diego last year. The main question that I was asked by the people in the crowd was, why? How do you do that? I said, because I did not teach them anything. I was trying to get the habit for them to teach each other all the time. So when I would leave, they would continue the trust and the realization that they were there together to be productive. Unfortunately, you cannot see this. I love the people I love the Dutch, because all these guys, what they do is that these industrial psychologists show us how relationship conflicts hurt productivity. So, and then I was able to run experiments. Each of those dots, it represents one crew of about 20 construction workers. And on one side we have productivity, on the other side we have a conflict, levels of conflict. And what I see in about these 10 crews with about a total of 100 workers is that just like the Dutch told us, conflict reduces productivity. And this is nice because working in the private industry and then being able to justify whatever social justice work, I don't know how you call it, it's really easy when you're actually talking about productivity. So this is society, right? Up there is societal culture. On the one side is the dominant culture, and on the other side you have the incoming culture, and then there is a social cost. One culture is being ripped away from their identity, and the other culture is losing and missing out on a lot of resources and knowledge. But what I'm telling companies to do, especially our membership, the contractors, is like, you don't have to wait for society to realize what they're missing about. Let's do a dominant culture and an emerging culture, and we are going to make sure that they 2 or 3 share their ideas, and we're going to create a new culture. Oh, I wish you could see that. So there are 3 figures on the top, and they are separated. And one is a square, the other one is a circle, and the other one is a triangle. And one of them is a female carpenter, the other one is a Bosnian carpenter, and the other one is a Latino plumber. And they have to work together on a project and be productive and make buildings like this one. There's a big disconnect about how they're going to communicate. So the type of pedagogy, and I heard someone asking John, what is the pedagogy like? What are you talking about when you're talking about making understanding of what we're trying to do? Is that is trying to create those spaces where all those figures merge. And that's a very difficult task. And what I think is that that's the main task of democratic societies, is to create those spaces of common understanding. And then one of my favorite testers ends his presentation about tomato sauce, actually. Maxwell. He ends his presentation basically saying that in embracing the diversity of human beings is where we find a surer way for true happiness. And like Mike is telling us, that assurance it can happen and will happen if we start now in Iowa. So that's my presentation. Thank you.